Hello, everyone. We are going to start with the panel discussion in next around 20 minutes. So we are on the break. We'll be resuming at 12 p.m. UAE time, and we'll have the panel discussion on digital transformation, and then we'll have other presentations. So we'll be back shortly in next 20 minutes. Thank you. Hello, Sunil. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. How about you, Dr. Hafiz? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you as well. Perfect. So let me introduce. So our next speaker is Mr. Sunil David, Regional Director IoT India and Asian Region, AT&T India. He will be talking about how IIoT serves a critical role during COVID-19. So over to you, Sunil.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. At the outset, I would like to thank Smart City Expo for giving me the opportunity to deliver this talk on the topic how IoT serves a critical role during COVID-19. As far as the agenda is concerned, what I initially want to do is to kind of give you an overview of what the business landscape is and how we have seen digital transformation being accelerated over the last few months. Share with you about some of the market trends that we're seeing from an IoT standpoint, and also share some use cases during the current pandemic. I'll also talk about how IoT will play a big role when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine, when it comes to storage and distribution. And then I would conclude. Just look at the business landscape today. Now we've seen the digital evolution play out over the last many years, right? And this transformation is not kind of confined to only certain cities or countries, but this is happening at a global level. All organizations have realized the importance of using digital. We also started to see the boundaries blur between physical and digital. We use the term called phygital now, right? A combination of physical and digital. And the pace at which this technology is changing is massive. It's a huge change. And these are powered by multiple trends that we're seeing play out in the market. Firstly, adoption of cloud. I think we have seen a lot of enterprises move some of their workloads from their on-prem environments to cloud environments, and this will continue going forward. Mobility, people would want to access any application from any device they want to. Software, as they say, is eating the world. So a lot of use of software. So we're using terms like software-defined networking, software-defined security, software-defined data centers, uh, and this will perhaps get increased even further going forward. Security, of course, very, very important. When you have all of these assets connected to the internet, you need to protect these assets. So whether it is an endpoint security, whether it is network security or application and data security, security obviously becomes very, very important. And this is going to throw open a lot of job opportunities in the security space. We are in a data powered world, right? So we are taking decisions based on data. And this is very, very critical. So use of analytics and AI, I think we're going to see a lot more adoption going forward. And finally, friends, IoT. So I'm going to touch upon IoT in a lot more detail as we get along through the presentation. Now, if you just look at the overall IoT market outlook, so we've seen a slow and steady growth. So there have been some sectors which have been great adopters of IoT, especially last 6-7 months. There have been some which have paused IoT adoption for various reasons. So we're seeing a lot, more of a delay than a derailment. So any use cases which require business continuity, automation obviously will see a lot more adoption, and those which are more transformational in nature, a lot more growth oriented, will perhaps see investments coming in later. And we are seeing slowdowns on account of two issues. So one is consumer spend on discretionary items that has come down. So whether it is smart homes or whether it is connected cars, these are definitely classified as discretionary. So these will perhaps happen a little later when the business outlook improves, when disposable incomes increase, perhaps a lot more adoption on that. On the enterprise side, we're going to see, IoT being capital intensive, manpower intensive. So certain spends are going to be held up. So reallocation of capital on certain important projects will obviously take place, but when it comes to certain capital intensive IoT projects, that will get delayed. So anything that is going to drive automation, and we are seeing this happen because a lot of these small and medium enterprises who have not been adopting technology, and more specifically IoT, have seen the need to automate. And so low cost automation, which is driven by IoT, that has picked up. Anything which is reducing the need for human support, that definitely will be a lot more demand. So, around remote operation of equipment, people who are on the field wanting to monitor equipment. So there we are seeing a lot of adoption of IoT. So anything supporting business continuity, something which is giving, cost savings, there the demand is much, much higher. So these are things that we are seeing play out in the market today. Now, where do organizations need to invest in IoT? I've kind of come up with three here. So those organizations, those who are part of industry that have seen a lot more accelerated demand. For example, we've seen online e-commerce companies. We're seeing a huge demand, and they were not able to cater to that demand because of the supply challenges. But for them, IoT is definitely great for them to optimize their operations, to increase their production and decrease the time to market. Those who have seen a decline in revenue, especially the manufacturing sector, they definitely would need to invest to optimize their cost. I talked about automation, the need to have low cost automation, use of robotics and AGVs in factory environments, and the need to explore IoT based products and analytics. I think that is going to drive up revenue significantly. So a lot of the manufacturing companies today have a lot of data that is residing in silos. The need for them to have an integrated view of data and to leverage that data to be able to take decisions. I think that's going to be critical. And friends, the need to create a digital workplace in today's economy, and how do you empower the digital workers who are working remotely today, and also to prioritize worker safety, because as companies design their return to workplace strategies, when people are coming back to their factories, the need to use technology to be able to monitor their health in real time. And I'm going to talk about some use cases around this as we go forward. I just wanted to quickly share some very interesting use cases that we have seen, especially in India during the COVID situation. So here is one very interesting use case of a company in Kerala which has built a Karmi Robo, a company called Asimov Robotics. And this is used in a hospital in Kerala. It's used for dispensing food and medicine, collecting the trash used by the patients, and also disinfecting the hospital. And this is completely IoT enabled. So it's got an IoT device in it with a cellular SIM that can connect to the internet, or it could also connect through Wi-Fi. And if there are patients who need to make a call to the doctor, it has also got a screen, which is currently not shown here, but it can make a video call between the doctor and the patient. So a great example of how one could leverage the power of IoT, especially in hospital environments where you do not want many of the people there to be exposed to patients. This was actually used in the hospital in Kerala, and this can actually be replicated across many other hospitals and cities. Another very good use case of how AI and IoT has helped in the COVID situation. This is an example of a ventilator that was built by a startup in Hyderabad. Now, ventilators were obviously very widely used, especially for those who had lower levels of oxygen. And this was an IoT-enabled ventilator that could be remotely monitored, where you can auto-adjust the oxygen flow. It had multiple functionalities. So one of them was you were able to trace contacts of a COVID-19 suspect, those who have visited the hospital over the last 2 weeks, then alerts to authorities, doctors and nurses, and even alerts to family members in case of emergency. And you could also do a remote monitoring of this ventilator, because this was IoT enabled, because you cannot always have the doctor be there and monitor this. So if you have the doctor away from the hospital, you could remote monitor this. And then most importantly, you could analyze all the data of the patients. And using the data, you can actually predict new outbreaks. And this is completely secured. So again, a great example of how using the power of IoT and using the power of analytics, one could build an IoT-enabled ventilator. This is an example of a company called BrainCorp, which makes autonomous robots. This is something which we were involved in. So these are widely used in many of the large retailers, where again, you want to reduce the dependence of people to do the scrubbing in a large retailer outlet. So you have these flow scrubbers which are used. Again, IoT enabled, you can remotely monitor this, And again, great use case where you could use not just in retail outlets, but even in hospitals. So these are completely autonomous. These robots are completely autonomous. I want to quickly shift to how during the COVID situation, because supply chain was very, very badly disrupted, how COVID, during the COVID times, use of technology for supply chain visibility and traceability. And we are very close to the vaccine being manufactured. So perhaps in a few months' time, we'll probably have the vaccine ready. And COVID during IoT will play a big role, especially during the storage and the distribution. I just wanted to share, some information here from and the sources from McKinsey. Now, the COVID-19 vaccine, which is going to be built, apparently has a need for 50 different raw materials, and you're going to have a heavy test load on the raw materials, and quality control is going to be very, very difficult here. Secondly, the shelf life of the vaccine is going to be 18 to 36 months. And the storage, so the cold room storage is anywhere between 2 to -8 degrees, and it's going to be in actually frozen temperatures. And I also am given to understand that the vaccine actually would have to operate at -80 degrees centigrade, -80. So it's going to place a lot of emphasis on how do you manage the supply chain. So very tight supply chain control is needed for storage, and also for transportation, because these vaccines are very temperature and humidity sensitive, because any variations in temperature, any temperature excursions, it would lose its potency. So as a country, India as a country, we produce a lot of vaccine. In fact, Hyderabad is known as the vaccine capital of India because it produces more than 30% of the current vaccines that are used. And COVID situation will probably see a lot of vaccine being produced in Hyderabad, because a lot of manufacturing pharma companies here in Hyderabad who are actually making these, who are going to make these vaccines. A lot of trials going on right now, but a lot of the startups are actually involved, and the whole industry is actually getting geared up for this. So, for example, GMR Airport Authority, they are getting their cold dollies, which are large containers which are going to ship vaccine from the manufacturing center to the airports. Companies like Blue Dart are geared up for this because their whole supply chain logistics is actually getting ready. So we're going to see a lot of IoT being used here, because the vaccine have to be at is temperature sensitive. So you're going to have temperature sensitive temperature sensors which would be used. And then, of course, as it is moving from one point to the other, you want to monitor the temperature in real time. You want to monitor the vehicles, where are they going. So again, use of IoT here. So the whole transport control will be really tight, and IoT will play a really very big part in this. Very quickly, moving on to other use cases where you could use IoT and video and data analytics for people safety. And I'm going to highlight a few use cases here. So you're going to use IoT, of course, sensors that will collect data, and then you move all the data to cloud to cellular. But it's a combination of this, sensorization and analytics. I think that will play a really big part, not just now, but even going forward as people come back to work. And I'm going to share very quickly some use cases. So let's start with the thermal analytics use case. So here you could have these IoT-enabled IR guns, which will measure the temperature as one gets into the office. In fact, I know of a lot of startups who are making solutions where you could actually integrate an IR gun into an existing metal detector, so that someone who's passing through that metal detector, you can actually check his temperature in real time. And those whose temperature is normal would be allowed in, and there's a big screen there which will be showing a green once a person's temperature is normal. Someone's temperature is more than normal, would then the screen would have a red display, so then he would be isolated. So you're going to use a combination of this. So you're going to use IR guns not just in public places, but even in companies where you have people coming back to offices. And so the need for not just IoT, but even analytics, because with all the data that you're gathering, you can get a lot of analytics in terms of how many people have come in, how many people's temperature were higher, how many were normal, and all that. Secondly, we are also seeing use cases around people counting and occupancy. So, real-time count of people entering and exiting, Again, you're using your traditional existing CCTV cameras. A camera is nothing but a video sensor. So you're going to monitor for compliance with occupancy guidelines. You're going to help with the operations and design. So again, a great use case where you can see, people counting in occupancy. Queue management and wait time, again, in public places, perhaps you're going to see this happen. We are going to get a real-time count of people waiting in the queue. You're going to leverage the existing CCTV cameras. And again, the use of IoT here to be able to do this in real time. Social distancing and monitoring, I think this is already being used. So I know of a startup whom I work very closely with. They have actually built kind of a badge that an employee would carry, and that's a Bluetooth enabled badge. So if you're getting into the office, and if you're, say, less than 6 feet away from somebody else who would also be wearing that badge, the badge actually vibrates, and it gives you an indication that, hey, you're not maintaining social distancing guidelines. So here you could use the same technology. Again, these are IoT enabled, because the Bluetooth badge, again, through a network, it sends it to the server, and then you can get all kinds of analytics. So you can measure the count of people within spaces, within an office, in a lobby or a dining room. You can measure the physical distance between visitors and between employees. And then, of course, you get all these dashboards and alerts when social distancing requirements are not met. So you can get all these kind of analytics using IoT. Object detection for PP. So again, as people get back to offices, as people go into many of these malls and other public places, of course, it is mandatory now in some countries for people to wear masks. But in case people are not wearing masks, or wherever gloves are mandatory, then again, you can use, leverage the CCTV cameras to monitor for that, and alerts can be sent in case people are not complying with these guidelines. Again, a great use case where you can combine IoT with video intelligence. So in conclusion, I just want to say that there are enough drivers now for companies to adopt IoT, because what we have seen happen is that the cost of sensors have come down significantly. The IoT devices have come down significantly. The cost of that has come down significantly. And there's a lot of emphasis on making devices here. So we're going to see a lot more reduction in the cost of devices, because that has always been a challenge in terms of making sure that the device cost is very low. Secondly, the cost of connectivity has come down. And this will come down even further. And the options for connectivity are even more. Unlike earlier, where you had very limited options for connectivity, today you have cellular options. Again, within cellular, you have 3G, 4G today, and in the future, you're going to have 5G. Satellite is one great example of using satellite connectivity for IoT use cases. Again, low power WAN connectivity. You must have heard of terms like narrowband IoT, LTE-M. So these would be deployed very soon for applications where you really don't need very high bandwidth applications, but the amount of data that you're sending to the cloud is very low. So a lot more options for connectivity. You could even use unlicensed spectrum like LoRa and Sigfox. We're also going to see a lot of use cases for edge, where you want an IoT device to capture data where the asset is located. So if the asset is generating data, you want the IoT device to be as close as possible to where the asset is, and so that you can actually respond to the alerts in real time. So we're going to see a lot more of these emerging. So it's always going to be a trade-off, because the moment you have an edge device, you need a lot more compute and storage. That increases the device cost. But then when you have the edge solution, you won't be transmitting data to the cloud, or you're going to send very little data to the cloud. So your cost of connectivity will be low, and the cost of cloud will also be much lower. And finally, friends, I just want to end by saying that it is the combinatorial impact of multiple digital technologies working in tandem that will ensure that the maximum value can be derived to get your better business outcomes. So it's always important that you start with IoT, of course, to gather data, but then you need to combine it with analytics, and at one point in time get to AI, because you want to predict outcomes. And then you can add additional technologies like blockchain, AR, VR. So it's when you combine these multiple technologies that work in tandem, that's when organizations can get better business outcomes. So with that, I would end my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Snehal. It was a great presentation. Any question from the audience, please? If no questions, then I would like to thank Mr. Sneel for his precious time, and it was a great presentation. We'll provide you a recorded copy shortly. So thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, moving on, we have a panel on digital transformation of everything. So I would like to invite the panelists. So our panelists include Mr. Fadi. He's Senior Director at Islat UAE, and he's also a digital transformation expert. So I would like to invite Fadi to please join. And then we have Mr. David Soldani, CTO, Huawei Australia. So I would like Mr. David to be to join us. And then we have Mr. Sunil from Cloud Tech Info Pty Ltd. He's senior enterprise architect. So I would like Mr. Sunil to join us. And finally, I'll be moderating the panel as well. So I think we have the panelists ready. Hello, Fadi. So I would like to start with you. And my first question is from you, like, what does digital transformation mean for businesses? So what exactly digital transformation is?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Well, first of all, thanks for the invitation to speak in this panel. So to answer this question, actually, I mean, I think there's a common misunderstanding when it comes to the word digital transformations in the market. So a lot of people, when they hear digital, they think maybe it's a new app or a software or a portal or an e-commerce for an organization or something like this. And I think this is, of course, it's beyond this. So digital transformation refers to a complete change management strategy within our organization. So it is changing the way we do business to cope with the rapid adoption of the technology. And this is why digital transformation is needed in across all industries. So, so digital transformation is a complete, I would say, a journey that communication and technology is just an enabler layer to enable this journey and to reach to the objectives and goals. It's not about adapting or implementing a new type of hardware or software or technology or portal in any organization.
Perfect. Thank you, Fadi. So my next question is from Dr. David Soldani, CTO Huawei. What do you think, what are the barriers that usually block any path to the transformation? So could you please throw some light on it?
I think that there are several challenges. So not in order of priority, but just to mention a few of them. I do see a lot of opportunity though, actually. At the end,
your voice is a bit low. Could you please adjust the volume?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. So looking at the challenge, I think we could start from the business model. So once we have identified the sector, we can think of smart city, for example. Yeah, we need to develop a business model that will lead to business cases, and in practice, the other challenge is to assemble an ecosystem. So that means a core team with the core stakeholders. In this case, I think the main stakeholder will be the government, and in particular the council of that particular city. Then once that has been agreed, the other challenge is to prioritize what has to be digitalized first. Digitalization encompasses many things, but overall, I think the focus is to shift the business processes, as the Fadi says before, and into something that is executable using information and communication technology. That may go from governance could go through the how the business is run, the different facets of it, down to the specific procedure. And all the information has to be, then the other challenge is to transform the readable information into digital information. And here I think the main thing is to harmonize the data model so that, for example, two hospitals can speak each other. And on top of it, we need to think of all the security and privacy prevention measures that there is no breach, and therefore the confidentiality, integrity, and availability information is in place. Once that's understood, I think the other challenge is to look at the technologies to run those particular application, meeting those use cases. And here, the technology are three type of technologies. So the first, it is about data value technologies. So you will need to have databases, storage capabilities, the way you're capturing all this information in the various form, not only video, but most of the information today is exchanged through text and voice. If we think about humans, is integrated, but then we need to think also of the machines, how the machine communicate, and have a way to capture this as well. The second technology that has to be in place are AI platforms. AI platform, which is not just about deep neural networks, which is, rather clear how it works, but I think beyond AI, I think we need, beyond the deep neural network, we need to think about the reasoning systems, because finally, digitalization needs to come along with knowledge computing. What people are interested are into the knowledge. So if it's not just an observation that an image is a cat or a dog, we need to understand the reasoning behind. So there are different challenging technology. The technology is not mature enough, like the graph technology and others. And then the last that we tend to forget, but I think is the most important, are the connected networks. Connected networks that today, like we reviewed, I've shown you that most of the technology deployed today do not meet the requirements of going beyond enhancing the end user experience. If you think of a smart city where you do have connectivity to service robots, or digital twinning, where you need to have a real-time integration information instead of modeling the city, you do see in real time different buildings, and you can use augmented reality instead of virtual reality. So I mean, the requirements are huge. We are thinking of more than 50 to 100 megabit per second communication in the uplink, like if you run a drone to capture the information, down to a gigabit per second in the downlink when you need to receive massive type of information. So I spoke a lot. I hope I gave you a sense, but they're all opportunities. So that to me are all things that that practically are not challenges, but they're opportunity for moving forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. David. So my next question is from Sunil, who is Senior Enterprise Architect at Cloud Tech Info. So Sunil, what do you think, what is the culture needed for digital transformation?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, yes. The culture, definitely they need to have an open mind. So one of the key things, digital transformation is a double-edged sword. So many companies, they feel that having a digital transformation means adapting it, the cutting edge technology, they get immediate benefits. That is one school thought. The other school thought is they feel adapting technology, they may lose their job. So the two fractions in any company. So we need to address the type of the company, and based on what is the kind of, what I can say is aggressiveness they have, and what kind of risk appetite they're having. So based on that, we must try to understand the culture, and based on that, we must try to prescribe them what is the best way for them to go. Said this, one of the key things we need to address is we need to profile the users and able to get the low-hanging fruit and able to show them the benefit, like what is the amount of time they're saving, the amount of innovation they can able to achieve, and ultimately any company wants what is the profit margin they're able to get achieved. So this is the end result of addressing a culture of a company.
Perfect. So my next question is from Mr. Anup, who is data scientist at Maps AI. So I would like to know what tools can be used for digital transformation, and what do you think is the biggest obstacle in terms of, for programmers and data scientists for implementing digital transformation solutions?
Thank you very much for inviting me, Dr. Hafiz, and good afternoon to everyone. So now when it comes to tools used in digital transformation, right from modeling process up till the implementation of various kind of strategic initiatives, you have a series of tools we can use. As an example, when it comes to modeling process, one can start using enterprise architect level modeling tools, somewhat like Erwin. You can have a business process modeling tools which can be used. Example is simple flow charting or BPMN notations using Signavio or those sort of tools. Then you need to have some level of architecting capabilities. So again, there are quite a few architecting tools. Again, another example is Erwin. Beyond that, next phase comes to implementing those strategic initiatives using data and automation tools. So as we know, there are quite a few software services which you can use in especially Azure or AWS. You can have data storage tools, you can have machine learning and AI capabilities, and beyond that, nowadays RPA is very big initiative. So you can build your digital workforce using those robotic process automation, which can replace your repetitive mundane tasks. So this is basically a huge area. So depending on your business outcomes and related strategic initiatives, you can literally map what exactly capabilities you are building, and you can use those relevant tools. And the beauty of this part is nowadays everything is as a service model. So you don't have to take huge risk of investing huge money into tools. You can just use them as a service to try out few use cases. And based on that, you can see if it is delivering results to you. So coming to the second part of your question, what are the biggest obstacles, or what are the basically areas of concern? So to my understanding as a data scientist, I see it a role which should connect technology with people. And when it comes to any organization, I think it is by people for people. So you have people who are working in the organization in different capacities. You have customers who are again people, and you have investors and all those stakeholders from the top. So any digital initiative has to be conveyed in a good language to all those people or stakeholders. As an example, if you end up giving a message that there will be a little robot sitting on the chair of a employee, and then it will replace that particular person, that sort of initiative will be never helped by a person who is going to give you a good idea about a business domain. So you will have to really come up with a well drafted message which suits to all the stakeholders in organization. And again, you need to show the outcomes time to time to all those stakeholders, that how it is benefiting to all parties and how it is a win-win scenario to you.
Thank you, Anup. I would like to ask Mr. David Suldani to please continue on this point, that how digital transformation project members can engage stakeholders, what initiatives they can take to engage stakeholders in those digital transformation projects.
Yes, digital transformation covers all vertical sectors and horizontal as well. So we will need to take some of them as an example, because I think the requirements in some cases are completely different. Now, probably one of the most complex scenario is the smart city. So to me, the smart city, the first we need to have the willingness and the capabilities in terms of budget from the government. So it has to be the government which has a vision, a strong view on how they intend to modernize the city using information and communication technology, and come out with not only a vision, but a set of requirements in the area they intend to digitalize. They may go from identity management, for example, down to driving licenses, or it could be like thinking of trains or public transport with, or optimize, reduce the time it takes from A to B. So we need to have a clear requirement. So that's the first step. We need to have the main stakeholder that takes forward initiative and then brings together a core team, the core team where you have the other players that are willing to invest and bring on the table the value, which means the contributions which are nicely integrating together in order to achieve that particular goal, constrained by the budget and the requirements of the government. So if you think of, for example, healthcare, and then I conclude, the healthcare, there are many challenges, because the healthcare, there are different schemes and insurances. There can be a public sector, could be a private sector. So you have different types of stakeholders. Let's focus on the public sector. So in this case, we will need to have a clear objective to say, okay, my target is in 10 years from now, all the people must live independently and active, remain as independent, as active as long as possible. And the enabling technology are, for example, robotic platforms, communication technology, sensors. So anything that would offload the particular caretakers today, mostly being either the one we pay, so nurses or whatever is around, or the families themselves. So offload them so that we can focus on this. And then we will need to assemble the other contributors that will bring in the technology, and they are willing to invest, innovate, and create this cake together that they can be then copy and paste from, for example, in Australia, could be done here in French's Forest, St. Ives, and then you copy paste all the, like in Melbourne, for example, you have, yeah, that's to me is the success, the key to success into digitalizing a particular vertical sector. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. David. So my next question is Mr. Fadi from Etisalat regarding how do digital transformation projects start in organizations? So could you please throw some light on the process from start to finish, how it happens?
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, if you look at the journey that we were talking about of digital transformation, there's a very important element to the success, which is the buy-in from the leadership. So there are multiple stakeholders need to work with each other. But if you look at all the challenges in any journey for transformation, if you don't have the belief and the buy-in from the top, the leadership of the organizations, nothing will happen on the down. In many organizations, we've seen examples that for them, it was a buzzword in the market, digital transformation, chief digital officer, and all of these things, and would have done if just maybe promoted or changed the title of their current CIO or IT director to a chief digital officer, and they said we are going into digital transformation, which is not the right approach, because the people they need to be leading this, they need to be a strategy people, not an IT people. This is where it's completely wrong to be driven from technology, from IT perspective only. It has to come from strategy perspective, and this strategy has to be aligned with the goals and objectives of the leadership and the shareholders. So it starts from the overall vision of the company. What do they need to achieve? The competitive situation in the market, and then the strategy has to be designed, and identifying the stakeholders to drive it within the organization. And those stakeholders is not only the tech guys, not only the marketing guys, it's the complete different functions in the organization. And when you look at what you need to do, also I agree with Anoop, it has to be driven, it has to be a human-centric approach. So you need to look at the different aspects of the operation. So the inside, the people that doing the job, the employees, how do you do the processes and employees, how to be more efficient, how to help them into be more productive within the organization internally, how to serve your customer. This is the external part, how to serve your customer, how do you deliver your services in a more effective way and innovative way to cope with the current rapid speed of adapting for technology, because now we've seen in the pandemic situation how this digital transformation has been a topic that everyone is discussing, because a lot of organizations, they have realized that this is not now a nice to have, it's a must to have in order to survive. A lot of them, they were just delaying this before the pandemic, or just saying in the marketing communication that we are going into these kind of, upgrading our infrastructure, doing, our data strategy. So they talked about an individual, I would say, projects or technology pieces, but they didn't talk about how do they re-innovate the way they do business from A to Z. And for that, one of the main challenges, just to continue what my colleagues were talking about, is the resistance of the people. You need to have the right people to adapt the technology. Whatever software you buy, or technology or hardware, or anything you deploy from the technology perspective will not help you to achieve your targets from digital transformation unless you have people they believe in the journey. And in order to get those people, you need to help them, you need to support them to believe. And if the top of the organization is not believing, is not adapting this as his main objective to drive it down to the organization, nothing will happen. So it's not a project that I give it to one guy or one department in an organization and tell them, please do a digital transformation for me. This is a big mistake. So it has to be something, it has to be changing the culture, creating this innovative culture within our organization that supports innovation, not digitizing of an existing services. A lot of companies, they go into a mistake of, okay, this is the way I do it now, I'm gonna buy a software to make it in a digital way. This is the wrong approach. The right approach is to innovate and introduce new innovative ways of delivering your service. This is where you really go into the maximum and you benefit out of this digital transformation journey. And this is where unfortunately a lot of companies, they do the mistake. They just think of upgrading their current ERP provider, buying new licenses, or even moving to a cloud will help them to make more profit. And this is the wrong understanding. These are enablers. Yes, you need to do these things, and you need to be brave and sometimes take a decisions of forget about a huge investment that you have done in a legacy IT systems in the past, and maybe adapt a new a small tool or software in the cloud that will give you more results than the millions of investment that you have done in a legacy system you have within your organization. And for that, of course, the fear, the resistance from employees will come, because they will think that digital tools now will replace their work. And this is where the leadership comes, where you need to give the security and safety and encourage all of your employees to be innovative. There are some, of course, hard decisions to be made. People need to be changed. Some people, they cannot cope. And I give you an example of one of our clients we were working with. They have discovered when the pandemic started that more than 65% of his employee, it's a large group, local group, more than 65 of his local employees are in the age of above 50. And a lot of them, they cannot deal with technology. They even cannot deal with the simple, computer skills. And when the pandemic started, and although the owner and the chairman of this organization is a very smart and well-educated guy, this is the reality they have faced. And when it comes to delivering services and changing the way they do business, to go on a virtual mode and start adapting e-commerce and delivering services via digital channels, they couldn't. It was a big obstacles for them. So a hard decision has to be made into changing people. This is maybe the last thing that you need to go for, but if it takes to achieve your goals, that some people need to be changed and new talents and skills need to be introduced, this is what you need to take. So that's why I repeat again, it's not about changing your infrastructure, software or hardware only. This comes at the end to enable and to support this operation, the whole journey. You have to start with a strategy. You have to start with having the right people on board, and you have to believe and drive this culture of innovation across the whole organization in order to achieve the outcome of the digital transformation journey.
Thank you, Mr. Fadi. It was a great response. My next question is from Mr. Sunil, that how digital transformation can help organization for post-pandemic recovery, and what are the emerging digital transformation trends?
Thanks, Hafiz. So one of the key things happening the post-pandemic, so all these years, whatever the digital transformation was addressed for the customer, so where they can able to access the services provided from anywhere. With the pandemic, it has been realized it's not only the customers need to be focused, even the employees must be able to give the services from any part of the world or from any devices. That's the first part. The second thing, what the post-pandemic has realized is, companies have realized employee cost in a good CBD like Sydney or like a Hong Kong or Singapore, it may cost about $15,000 per annum. If a company having about 1,000 employees, they're literally saving $1.5 million per annum. And the second most important thing is, if the company is able to see an employee is able to work from the home, the post-pandemic, especially in developed countries, work from home task will be outsourced or offshore. The reason, nobody want to buy an iPhone which has been manufactured in Australia, US. So ultimately the business drives what is expected. So post-pandemic, the biggest challenge for especially developed countries, the workforce, especially the technical skill work, will be completely, not completely, at least partially whatever possible will be either outsourced or offshore. Again, the key enabler, as our previous Fadi was telling, because everything is based on cloud, it does not matter where your resource comes from. The resource can be anywhere, any part of the world. So the post-pandemic, the biggest challenge, the changes will occur in 3 industries. One is in education, because the industry has seen students are able to study from the home. So if they're able to continue the same process, only there'll be a hybrid environment. Only students, when they want to do the practicals, they'll be coming to the universities. Otherwise, they can able to study from the home. First thing. And health, I was looking at some of the statistics. In US, the health industry, telehealth was about $3 billion last year. And because of pandemic, some of the legislation they changed such a way the patient can be treated remotely. They're expecting in the next 5 years about $300 billion worth of industry by telehealth itself. So the next biggest occurring after education is health. And work from home, as I told you earlier, So the skills will be completely scattered. And as Fadi was telling, definitely there are two kind of workforce in the company. Sometimes, of course, younger generation, older generation, ultimately, what is the mindset? How they want to change to be employable, and how fast they can able to change. So said this one, definitely pandemic is brought as a new light. The new light is that as earlier expected when audience they told, the key thing is digital transformation was not an option, is inevitable. It's not only inevitable, again, they must go in the right way. And post-pandemic, especially what we can able to see is many companies have jumped into cloud. One of the key thing is the systems, what has been currently designed is for vertical scaling. Once they gone into cloud, they got immediate results because cloud is based on it's a OPEX model, just pay for usage. But again, systems, what they have got is not designed for a SaaS model. So it's not for vertical, the horizontal scaling. So they'll be getting fat bills. So this will again innovate the whole IT industry into looking into a new, what I can say, a paradigm. It's okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Sunil. So my next question is again from Mr. Fadi regarding how Etisalat is enabling digital transformation, what role it's playing, or any case studies you're having at Etisalat or in UAE of digital transformation enabled by Etisalat. So if you can throw some light on those.
Yep. Well, actually, I mean, we have ourselves as Etisalat, we're going into a digital transformation journey. So this Etisalat has started this maybe early 5 years back, when the new leadership at that time they realized the future of the telecom is changing, and there is a big need to go into the digital world and start changing the way we work. We offer the service to our clients and the type of service that we offer in the market. So this is where Etisalat Digital has been created 5 years back with this concept. So it was a very brave decision at that time to put a huge investment into creating a complete entity within the Etisalat Group to focus on the digital services. The shareholders, they were very supportive and allocated the right amount of investment for that. So today, as we speak, this entity is one of the fastest growing engines for Etisalat. It is across the region now. They have started in Saudi Arabia and Egypt, and it is engaged with many large-scale digital projects across the country within the private sector and the public sectors. So this is where how important was digital for us, and still. At the same time, we have changed a lot of ways, and maybe a lot of you are Etisalat customers. They realize what was the difference between how the service were delivered, how the customer service experience was 5 years back, and as today, and it's still improving. A lot of digital channels has been enabled to communicate with our customers. And a lot of innovative digital services has been introduced to the consumer market and to the B2B market. So it is a journey. We're still in that journey. We have learned a lot. A lot of our processes has been automated. I'll give you an example, and this is a case that we have worked on a couple of years back, where just adoption to RPA, robotic process automation technology, has helped us to save a big number on a monthly basis to do a lot of processes. We have more than 700 bots working within Etisalat now that replaced a huge operation before was done manually. And this is one of the areas where we're still also evolving. We're actually now introducing this service to our clients. So we started to engage with organizations in the enterprise, helping them into digitizing their processes by utilizing similar technology to the RPA. So we consider ourselves as the backbone of the country. We have the network, definitely. We keep investing in that as the main enabler for communication and support in the country. And one of the biggest projects that we're running is the 5G, as you all know, from connectivity perspective. So we have invested a huge amount for the last year. We're going to continue investing this year and for the next few coming years to cover the whole country with a 5G. We were one of the first, actually. We were the first in the Middle East and Africa, and one of the first in the world to go in this brave decision and massive investment. And now we're working closely with the enterprise sector into creating and innovate new use cases of how to utilize such technology, such communication technology, to serve their business operations. So we work with ports, we work with the healthcare sector, we work with the logistics and transportation, we work with the automotive sector and RTA, for example, into their initiatives for driverless cars. We have a lot of these kind of running projects today, and where Etisalat provide the right enablement layers to support this their journeys. So this is the infrastructure part. We have also a massive program for our cloud business, as you all know. So most of the big hyperscaler public clouds now in the country are hosted in Etisalat. We have Microsoft, Oracle, and others. We have a multi-cloud approach to our customers. So we provide all of those global public clouds, as well as our own cloud and private clouds, and a co-location. More than 11, 12 data centers are there operating in UAE. We also have introduced an IoT platform as a service to the market, where we build IoT as a service solutions for clients. And we have currently we're running the largest IoT project actually in the region, which is Hassan Tok project for the smart fire detection for all the villas in the UAE. But we also work with many clients like ADNOC, for example, into smart petrol stations. We work with many clients into providing smart services and smart living for residential and commercials. DMCC, Jumeirah Lake Towers area in Dubai was a project has been awarded beginning of this year. It's under implementation now, where we're introducing more than 10 smart services and a command and control center and a data hub with a portal and mobile applications for citizens living there. It's a complete smart district project that is under delivery today by Etisalat. So a lot of other interesting stuff. To answer your question, we are very committed to the journey of digitizing the whole country. I mean, we're lucky to live in a country like UAE where the top, and this is where, going back to my initial comments, if you have the top, if you have the leadership, they're convinced and they're driving this culture of innovation, your digital transformation journey is going to be much more easier. And this is what we have in UAE from the top, and all the leaders here. They're pushing everyone in the private and the public sector to go into this direction.
Thank you, Mr. Fadi. It was a really great and detailed response. So now I would like to open the questions to the audience. If they have any questions to the panelists, maybe we can incorporate some questions from them. So please feel free to unmute your microphone if you have any question regarding digital transformation of everything from our panelists, Mr. Fadi and Sunil, Anup. And so we are happy to answer, please.
Whoa. Oh, no sound.
Okay, so well, since there are no questions from the audience yet, so my question from Anup is, if you can, elaborate about some case studies in digital healthcare and digital transformation in the healthcare industry using AI. So could you please elaborate what is happening in the healthcare industry for digital transformation?
I think looking at current scenario, what has happened that people have started avoiding going to dispensaries and hospitals. What it means basically is a lot of scope on remote health monitoring, and especially now IoT has become a very common platform for such initiatives. But beyond that, Telstra in Australia also has got video conferencing and that sort of technology for delivering remote health. So yeah, basically using videos and smart sensors for driving remote monitoring, that is one of the major initiatives. Apart from that, recently what I have seen is because of this remote working and isolated working, people have started having certain issues with their mental health. So there is some drive towards that part as well to improve mental health when they're working and living remotely. So these are the areas what I have noticed in the recent past. There can be more, but these are something I have seen closely.
Okay, thank you, Anup. My next question is from Sunil. That why most of the digital transformation projects fail to achieve their overall objectives? Like, what are the inefficiencies and what are the underlying reasons in those inefficiencies?
Yeah. See, one of the key thing see, 85% of the digital transformation project fails. It's a very, what I can say is a alarming statistics. One of the key reason, the company culture, the old way of thinking, they work in the same way. In the old way, yes, it was all CapEx based. A proper ERP system was costing millions of dollars. But in the new way of working, it's all in terms of OPEX model. It can be in terms of thousands. At the same time, just because OPEX model, they cannot drive in the same way. They need to really analyze exactly what a company wants. And based on, as Fadi was telling, yes, definitely must look from the strategy side. And the most important thing is, many companies which I worked, which I come across, one of the main reason is strategy is good. At the same time, the strategy must have a proper advisors, because now there's so much of capability in the technology. Unfortunately, sometimes the strategists are unaware of the technology capability. Only with that, many companies, they say whether the business is driving the technology or technology driving the business. It's a combination of both. Because if you look at the new breed of doing the business, we must adapt technology. Though we try to look at what is the capability the business needs to have, but again, we must marry the technology. So what we suggest is definitely to increase success of a digital transformation. The key thing is they must be having the management is a combination of the new breed who knows what is exactly technology is. At the same time, the strategists to understand exactly what the business wants. Only with these two combination, the success rate can be increased.
Okay, thank you, Sunil. So again, getting back to the audience, so I'm just wondering if there are any questions from the audience. Okay, so I think there are no more questions from the audience. So just to wrap up, it's a collective question from, I would like to have the opinion from each of the panelists, that what do you recommend, like in this post-pandemic world, what are the key tips for effective digital transformation? Like, let's say 1 to 5, you say these are the 5 key tips for effective digital transformation projects implementation.
Shall I take the first one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. See, as all our previous panelists, they told, digital transformation is a journey. So once we say it's a journey, we must be really able to abstract what is the company's capability. And based on that, we must choose what kind of technology stack we need, because technology constantly is evolving and constantly moving. So many companies, what they're trying to do is, as our panelists were telling, they say cloud first, okay, go for AWS or go for Azure. No, we must try to see what exactly the company wants. So based on the company needs, we need to abstract the capability. To achieve this, first of all, we need to have an enterprise-wide strategy. When we want to have an enterprise-wide strategy, we need to have a concept for what enterprise architecture is a proven concept across the world. You must follow that concept. Once you follow that concept, the next important thing is you must be able to get the real-time data. If you take an example of a company, if a company like old style of doing the company is like driving a car, having like few kind of parameters. But if you want to fly, especially with the modern digital technology, you must be having like a cockpit. How a cockpit has got X number of data coming across. So you must be able to get the real-time data wherever possible from a company. So once that, again, that must come from the enterprise strategy to understand exactly what kind of data is required. So once that is done, as I told you earlier, work from home will be outsourced or offshore. So said that what's going to happen is we must have a proper communication management. To have a proper communication, we must need to have a proper modeling. As Anup was telling, it must come from strategy. Or strategy, when you got there's some kind of a modeling called Archimate. And from there, it must be able to connect it to business process management. And from business process management, the data set must be connected. And from there, all the way to the software stack, UML, and to the tech stack. So it's all must be connected in real time. And of course, there are tools which can able to give you the real-time information. EA tools are there. So only with this kind of a concept, having a real-time information and constantly evolving with the technology, with abstracting the capability with the technology, the success can be guaranteed.
Okay, so next, Mr. Fadi, what are your 5 recommendations for effective digital transformation implementation?
Well, I think, looking at the sequence, where do you need to start? As I said, it always starts from what do you want to achieve. So organization, they need first to have an objective. They need to define really why do they need to have digital transformation, what's the main objectives, and where they are, what's the ultimate achievements out of this journey. So you start from there. And this is, again, it's a strategic topic that the owner, the leadership of the organization, they need to answer. They need to analyze their situation, their competitive situation in the market, and where do they need to reach? How do they gonna serve their customers? And from these answers and these objectives defined, so once you have clarity and a clear objective statement for everyone that need to work in this project, you then look at your current available resources. And you look at the people that you have. Are those people the right people to drive this to drive this journey to achieve those objectives that has been defined, or there is a change need to happen? A change not necessarily by changing people, but by developing people. So some of those people, they need to develop new skills. They need to learn. Maybe you put them in development programs and trainings. You enable them to be able to drive this strategy and achieve your goals. So once you have achieved this and you have the right people to drive this strategy, you need to look at also the resistance of the rest of the people. So how to achieve, and this is the main obstacle in any journey. If you have the people resistance, nothing will happen. If you have your employees, they're resisting this change, and whatever tool you're gonna bring, they will not make it working efficiently unless they believe in it. So you need to work on this part and give them the trust, create this culture of innovation, and let them feel that they're all part of this journey, that and they adapt the change so they can support what you need. All of these things, once you have them on board, of course, you need then to analyze your current enablement, so your current legacy technology, software, and IT, and everything that you have there, and what investment is required. And here is the big obstacles comes to the situation. So people, when they see numbers and they see the amount of investment, if you don't have a right business case that define what will be the outcome of that and how you're going to return your investment and what are the benefits you're going to gain out of this journey, investors and shareholders will see the number of investment required to be done, and then the project is killed. Nothing will happen, or you will have bits and pieces here and there, and you will not achieve what you wanted to achieve. So it's very important to define the right I would say, or the right business case to be presented to your shareholders in order to justify the investment. And the new technology now and things like, as I said, SaaS models and cloud and everything, luckily now are enabling having more cost-effective and I would say achievable adoption, because the model is OpEx model. Less risk. You don't need to have this huge capex investment at the upfront. So, but you need to be brave sometimes to really forget about the huge numbers that you have invested in the past in a legacy system that you have in your organization, and adapt something new. Maybe you have bought a CRM in your company. You have invested in $5-6 million US, and this CRM now is outdated. And you need to go to a SaaS model and go something like Salesforce or something similar, and forget about that investment. So you need to have these brave decisions of stopping the old way of doing things and innovate and go to the new way that will enable you to be closer from your customer and the market and achieve your financial goals.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fadi. So coming to Mr. Anu, I would like you to have your views, please.
I think I would like to agree with Mr. Fadi on first part for sure, that you have to start from top. So I tend to use word called business outcomes. So based on changed business landscape, what sort of outcomes we are looking, what sort of changes we are looking in the organization. And then that study has to be done a little bit systematically. Usually you can have some measurables around those outcomes. And then based on that, you can start investigating affordable and reliable approach to address those measurables. And you need to have a tailored solution for each and every initiative and organization. So those are 4 or 5 major areas I would like to highlight. And with Cloud Tech Info, we have come up with this acronym called SMART, which means systematic, measurable, affordable, reliable, and tailored approach. So that's what I would like to advise. Thank you.
So thank you much. And it brings me towards the end of this session. I think it was a great discussion with all of the panelists. And I would like to thank all panelists, Mr. Fadi from Etisalat, Mr. Anu from CI, and Mr. Sunil from Cloud Tech Info. Thank you very much for your time. And it was a great talk with every one of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Thanks to all the participants.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
And was really enriching from Mr. Fadi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anup. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we have a short break for next 15 minutes, and we'll be resuming shortly. And then we have some presentation on smart buildings. So meanwhile, we can have some short break for 15 minutes. Thank you.
How was it conveying the message?
Hello, Bob. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good now. The reboot worked.
Perfect. So yeah, so meanwhile you were testing, so we decided to have a short break so that
Good.
we can sort out. So we'll resume in 10 minutes, okay?
Okay, no
Perfect.
problem. At least we're all good now.
Okay, perfect. Can you share your screen meanwhile to see if
Yeah.
the presentation is working?
Where are we? Hold on just a minute. Share screen. Screen 2. We want screen 1. This one. There, have you got that? And
Yeah, perfect.
hold on a minute. Just wait. I'll get the full screen up.
Yeah.
Wrong one. Hold on. Let me get the other one.
Yeah.
Swap presenter. There. You got the full screen there?
Yes, perfect.
Beautiful.
Okay, you are good to go. So we'll start at 8:15. So
Okay.
just, back up from the
Yeah.
break and we'll start.
I'll wait for you to give me the go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Hello, Bob. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So we can start.
Okay, no problem.
So I'll just give me 1 second. I'll introduce
Okay.
and then you can continue.
Yeah.
So hello, everyone. Our next speaker is Mr. Bob Sharon. He's the founder and CEO of Blue IoT. Today, he'll be talking about smart buildings and smart cities. So over to you, Bob.
Thank you very much for that and for this time. Hello, everybody. At the conclusion of this, you're welcome to ask me questions. So I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. And if you bear with me, I'll just go through about 2 minutes on just as a background on what we do, but that will be a very fast process. Then we'll go into the fun in going to smart cities. So Blue IoT, we established about 4 years ago, basically to leverage the Internet of Things as an enabler to support the blue economy. That is, for us, smart buildings, smart cities, and smart assets. So we, in fact, developed the first IoT-based, cloud-based BMS, building management system, to automate buildings from the cloud. And we won some awards with the Facilities Management Association last November, the IoT Pioneer Award last June. And the system we developed is called Encompass Blue because we encompass people and buildings. And basically we do energy management, building automation, and predictive maintenance, fault detection and diagnostics, and health, wellness, safety. That's enough of Blue IoT. Now let's get into the fun of smart cities and smart buildings, and then we can have a fun Q&A at the end of this, so don't hold back on your curly questions. So here are some stats on the market that is being forecast, and they vary, between, I've seen figures of 1.5 to $2.5 trillion come 5 years from now within the space. And the figures we have here are from Grandview Research. So we are talking about quite an increase year on year. Personally, I think it'll probably even grow more. It is increasing year on year. I think the increase will actually be higher personally, but that's my own personal view. It's growing at a rate of knots now. It's really taking hold. And to be honest, I think COVID-19 will accelerate this. COVID-19, the problems that have come up as a result, lack of digital transformation in buildings. So building managers couldn't get back to the buildings. They couldn't see what's going on. How do we manage the building remotely? How can we understand what's happening in the building? Most buildings don't have that much data, to be honest. The old BMSs don't have a lot of information. So what's going to happen now is we need to accelerate the digital transformation in smart buildings at a much faster rate, not only from a COVID safe or smart city perspective, but purely based on cost, operating costs. So I would ask people and say, can you afford not to do this now? And we'll go into a case study later on, and I'll give some examples of what can be achieved when we go down the path of digital transformation in smart buildings and cities. So, it's quite an interesting topic. So I guess the first question we ask is, what is big data for smart buildings? What are smart buildings? So I've got a definition. There's a number of different definitions around smart buildings. And there's a few different things where it could be smart management, smart automation with AI, machine learning, and let's throw in what I call 4-dimensional digital twins, not just digital twins. There's a lot of market hype. So people are mentioning 2 words that I'm hearing mostly at the moment, AI and digital twins, and everyone's jumping. So we use AI. We've got digital twins. Well, in most cases, the question you need to ask is the AI that you're using within the built environment or smart buildings or cities, is that self-actualizing? True AI makes decisions on itself and will implement and do something by itself. It's not just an algorithm. Machine learning uses algorithms. It's a subset of AI, and there is a lot more of that around. But the questions need to be delved into. Same with digital twins. Some people think, wow, digital twins. Well, digital twins basically is a building information management view, right? It's a three-dimensional CAD drawing, might come out of Revit or whatever. I've got my 3D CAD drawing of the building. I've got my digital image, my 3D digital image of the building. Great. What's it going to do for me? Well, yeah, okay, I can see it, but how's that going to return to my bottom line? How's that going to save me money? How's it going to make my building safer? How's it going to make it a better place to live, to work, and operate? Now that's an interesting question. So just because somebody has a digital twin by itself means nothing. It's what you do with the digital twin that is important. What you do with AI. So what outcomes are they going to deliver? Not just, we got it, right? You know, somebody came to you and said, I've got IoT to sell you. Well, what does that mean? I've got IoT, so what? What's it going to do for me, for you? What is it going to return to your bottom line? How is it going to make a difference? What's it going to do in answering your problems and pain points? They're the questions that need to be asked in any smart building or smart cities project. And so what we have is a system or systems, and it'll also consist of many applications. I mean, and we only do one part of the jigsaw puzzle. So you've got things like asset management, you've got work order management, you've got FM management, you've got so many different aspects, and then huge data lakes covering multiple buildings and cities, might be urban development and planning, all sorts of things. And then, of course, the building controls and the management of the buildings and the lighting and the HVAC and all the water and hydraulics and all the different systems. And you keep going down. And then the health and wellness and safety and COVID-19. What are we doing around that? Safety, distancing, numbers of people, antimicrobial sprays, whatever, airflow management, so many different things. What are we doing? So there's a whole lot of things. So we need to be picking up the data. So in terms of getting the big data and the analytics, if we haven't got data or enough data, well, we can't manage what we don't know. So we need to be collecting lots of data. So what is big data? And here's a number of questions we need to ask. Well, how big is it? Well, the good news is when we're talking about managing buildings, and if we're doing it perhaps in a more cyber secure manner, preferably using a non-IP network in the process, and using low power wide area networks, meaning the sensors take very little battery. And that means they can last several years on a battery before we change it. We don't have to run power cables to them, which is why we run low power wide area networks. And again, using those in many cases means non-IP network, lower cyber security risk. This is a very good thing. So if we can then reduce the volume of data that comes through, but we could have 10,000 sensors, but each producing a little bit of data, not a problem. And then we've got, the velocity of data. So how fast are we picking this up? How quick do we need it? What sort of latency have we got? And then we've got the types of data. Put it this way, you're not going to be sending up video surveillance files over LoRaWAN or Sigfox, put it that way, right? That'd be a bit of a problem. You'd be doing that over, over Ethernet, over fiber, whatever the case may be, but you need lots of bandwidth for that. So horses for courses, depending what you want to do. Then we got the veracity, which is the quality of the data. Now, if it's all set up in the correct manner in the first place, then all the data you're going to have is going to be relevant, and you're not going to have to clean it up. But if you've got old legacy systems, oh gee, then that's a separate story, big problem. If you're trying to dig up historical data and clean it up, and you need to, again, that presents its own challenges, but it can be done. So basically, we need to segment this, and we need to organize our data. So big data management. Now, how are we getting it? Structured, unstructured? What are we doing with it? And how can we continually improve process? If we design it from the beginning, so if we're going to take over a building or a campus of buildings and places, and public areas perhaps as well, like railway stations, airports, and so forth. If we design a new system, then we can structure everything correctly. And that way we can have an ongoing, continuous, structured set of data, the way we want it, organized the way we want it, cleansed from day one, from the beginning, all set up. So that would be ideal, but you know, that doesn't always happen that way. So sometimes we have to work with all kinds of data, especially historical stuff that we're trying to compile, analyze, and put into the system, and move forward from that. I like this slide. This talks about the architecture, the 4-stage IoT architecture here. And so we start at the edge. And what's at the edge? Well, we got sensors, we got actuators, we got controls. Then we've got the gateways. So if, for example, we're running a non-IP network, we'll be running radio gateways, whether you're running NB-IoT, well, NB-IoT, you won't need a gateway for that. But if you're running LoRaWAN, for example, which is one of the more popular IoT protocols, you'll be running a number of gateways in a building. If you want redundancy, you'll have several gateways for failover. Then you'll have your, well, in stage 3, you've got edge analytics. Now, that could be within the controllers, for example. It might even be in some of the sensors that transmit data every so often, but stores the data. Or it just may be literally in the cloud itself. Some of it may reside in the gateway as well. So there's many ways to skin the cat. There's no right way or wrong way. It depends on the use case. So we need to understand, what is the use case? What are we trying to achieve, so we can architect the best method forward in terms of the architecture that we want to apply. And of course, we've got a very critical component, and that is the edge, the data center, the cloud. Where does the cloud sit? Now, if we're dealing with government bodies, what about data sovereignty? We need to look at issues of that. Patriot Act, all sorts of things. If we're not dealing with government bodies, not such an issue there. But what about the quality of the data center? What about the uptime? Are they tier 3 or tier 4 rated? What's the security around the data center? What about the pipes in terms of the comps going into the data center? How reliable are they? All very important questions to be asked. There's a whole lot of things. Then, of course, around all of that, we've got the whole cybersecurity aspect of it. What are we doing around cybersecurity? Not just at the edge, but all the way through from end to end. How are we mitigating risk around all of this? How are we handling the analytics? How are we handling the various components? And then what if we're, using open systems? And hopefully we are using open systems, because if we are, that means we can collaborate with other platforms and send and receive data and exchange data. So how does that all work together? How's the security around that? And so forth. So a lot of people make a big deal about IoT and try to define it in the most complicated way. The way I like to define it is very simple. It's a bunch of stuff connected to each other, whether it's phones, whether it's stoves that run off the internet, or fridges, or a car, a Tesla that picks up data from the cloud, and certainly the self-driving cars do, all sorts of things. So stuff connected to each other. Now, technically, it can also mean stuff wired to each other as well. And, I've heard of stories and organizations talk about IoT controllers, but yet it's got a hardwired Ethernet connector. Now, technically, it is IoT, but in reality, practically speaking, well, yeah, I might question that, but that's a discussion to be argued over at another point in time. So what are some of the individual components of all of this? So here we have something around movable objects, asset tracking, geo-visualization, fencing, coding, and then analytics on moving assets. We've got building management control, might be either end of these moving assets and warehouses, factories, whatever the case may be. And then we're streaming data both at site, but also from trucks, buses, planes, whatever, ships. So there's all sorts of architectures that can be applied, and then therefore the protocols. How do we compute? How do we analyze if we're on a ship? I don't think we're going to be exchanging data to the cloud too often. So obviously we need to have something that's working within the ship to operate, maintain, monitor, do whatever it does, and then it might send data when it gets to shore or when it's in range of a city, rather than hitting the satellites all the time. Number of options with this. So again, there's many ways to skin the cat, and there's no cookie cutter approach. It really depends on the use case as to how we put it together. Again, with sensors, there's heaps of them. The most common one would, of course, be temperature, humidity. That would be the one that would be used most commonly. But we've got there's all sorts of things. Then you go into water leak detection, vibration for motors. You've got CO sensors, CO2 sensors. You've got lux level sensors for light, noise sensors, dust particulates, air quality, VOCs, all sorts of things. Pressure differential for pumps and for filters, weather stations. We even have the sensors we can get from the US that detect golden staph and biosecurity threats. There's all sorts of things that we can get. So for example, we manufacture some, others we use third party, kind of depends at the end of the day what we're looking for. But there's so many different sensors that we can get. We can virtually measure almost anything, and the costs have gone down dramatically from where they once were. Once upon a time, you'd spend thousands and thousands of dollars to measure one thing. Now that's changed, and IoT has brought about this revolution in all of this. And here's an interesting example of a solution set for transport and infrastructure. So you can see what we might use for rail, road, ports, and infrastructure, and how we might, the things that we might use in terms of maintenance, predictive maintenance, and security. There's all the different elements that goes into each of these. And again, systems are designed specifically to meet the individual use cases. But right now, more and more IoT is going in. Up to a couple of years ago, it was mostly academic, a few little proof of concepts. But really, in the last 12 months, things are moving along and it's accelerating at a rate of knots. And it's going to be a lot of fun in this space. Mind you, beware, buyer beware, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the industry where people say they can do a whole lot of stuff. Bit of due diligence to sort out what is real and what is not. I highly recommend with any organization, and including us, ask us all the hard questions. Very important. Okay, objectives. Now, at the end of the day, people might want to sell this great widget. Look, I've got this great IoT thing. I've got this great sensor. I've got this great widget. It's really good, this edge computer. You're going to have one. You know, we can measure stuff on the edge. This is so good. Yeah, but why is it so good? What's it going to do for me? Okay, well, okay, I can get some you know, pressure differential. I can measure power. Yeah, well, why? So what's that? How's that going to help me? What's the business case? What's the use case? For what reason? What is the outcome that you're going to give me if you're trying to sell me this widget? And I think the important question to ask is, what are the problems that exist? So might it be common ones in a building? Might be lack of visualization. I've got a legacy system in there. and you know, I can go to the plant room, have a look. I've got a 6-year-old system, 7-year-old system. I can get access to it from the web. Okay, that's good, but I don't get all the data, and some of the sensors are dead, and some of the things don't work, and I get a bit of info, but you know, it's pretty basic. So I haven't got all the information at hand. Oh, okay. What about the other problems? Well, sometimes we get pumps and chillers just stop for no reason, you know, goes out on high pressure, or we get a problem for no apparent reason. We don't know why. Oh, so you're not doing predictive analytics? No. Well, the old stuff doesn't do it. And okay, what about a new provider? Well, if we go to our current traditional provider, big multinational, we can do all that, but it's going to cost me about $3 million to implement if I do all those things. Oh, gee, okay, well, that's going to give you about a 20-year payback. Well, that's not going to work. Okay. So you're getting faults, so you're getting more complaints. And the other problem we have is, well, in our building, we've got temperatures that are 5 degrees apart. In some parts of the building, it's freezing at 17 degrees or 18. In other parts, it's 23, 24 degrees. And we can't control it properly. Oh, gee, okay. So how can we control those problems? And by the way, our energy costs are going through the roof. Well, now with COVID-19, we've lost some tenants in the building, and you know, we're left holding the bag. Rents are going down. We need to cut our costs. So how can we cut our costs? How can we survive? That's a big problem for us. What are we going to do? So there's some examples of some possible, you know, use cases and problem statements that we need to overcome. So then we can answer those statements in whatever we're trying to deliver that says, well, we got this part that can help you save X, or reduce your maintenance bill by Y, or whatever. Reduce your energy consumption by X, saving Y. This is how we start to get to the business objectives of you know, what is it they need? What's their pain? How can we solve their pain? And they're the questions that we need to establish. So I'm conscious of time, so that's all right. We're getting there. So what might a smart system look like? Well, whatever it is that you get, we'll be able to have access to all of this stuff, and management, building managers and building operators and smart city operators, councils, airports, rail, whatever, should be able to have access from any device anywhere and be able to look, see what's going on, manage, change, make control changes from wherever they are. That's what, you know, a smart system might look like at a very high level, very, very high level. IoT protocols. So there's a number of them out there. And there's another discussion to be had on the pros and cons of each one. I'm not going to go into that, except to say my personal favorite, which we looked into a lot for collecting data in the built environment, is LoRaWAN. And we run our own private networks in buildings and places. We don't do public networks. If we want to get in a public space, we would work with the public operators in that space. So, but if you look at LoRaWAN, last year there was over 135 million end nodes all over the world. So it is the most popular IoT low power wide area network protocol currently. They forecast 200 million at the end of this year. Not sure with COVID where that will end up, but we'll find out. So it is most certainly deployed all over the place, and we're one of many happy vendors and integrators that use it very, very happily. And LoRaWAN standard, here it is, and it is wonderful. It's a spread spectrum. In our region, it's 915 to 923, now 928 megahertz. Asia, America, parts of the Middle East. But then we've got India and Europe that uses 868 megahertz. But yeah, it's an excellent protocol. It's got great cybersecurity aspects around it. Anyway, we have another discussion on that separately. And then, of course, machine learning, very important part, is a subset of AI. You can run a whole lot of algorithms and learn what's happening in a building or a place, learn its operation, and then slowly implement, you know, smart ways to operate and save energy in using that. And then, of course, when you add AI, adds a new dimension where you can then automatically run and improve buildings and places and optimize all sorts of things using AI. And then, of course, fault detection and diagnostics, very fundamental by monitoring things like pressure differential, temperatures, pressures, monitoring water flows, energy, right through to power factor of every device, many different factors, vibration on motors, all sorts of things. We can get a real understanding as to what's happening in the whole ecosystem and get right into fault detection and diagnostics using both machine learning and then building AI and using AI to better determine when exactly is this going to fail. And I predict in 5 years' time, we should be able to, within the day, work out when it's going to fail from months ahead. But we're a long, long way from that. So quick case study. This is a case study in a system we had implemented in an office building using an IoT system from the cloud. And over 6 months, we can see, and this is comparing utility bills, 22-year-old infrastructure. What we can see in this case study, 64% saving on megajoules and 46% saving on total electricity bills in kilowatt hours year on year. This is Melbourne, so it gets a bit cold in wintertime. Not as cold as Europe, but it gets reasonably cold. So the numbers are very, very good. And there are many other things out there from many vendors around the world, both software, hardware, all sorts of things that can achieve all sorts of amazing outcomes when it comes to smart buildings, smart cities. There's so many wonderful things out there and technologies that when combined, whew, going to carbon net zero will not be a hard deal at all when we combine a lot of these great technologies. So I'm now ready to open the floor to questions and answers. So thank you very much for your time, and over to the audience.
Thank you, Bob. It was a great presentation, and it was a pleasure having you here at this forum. So I would like to ask the audience if they have any questions. Please feel free to unmute their microphones, or they can type in the chat window. So meanwhile, one quick question. Mm-hmm. What are the emerging trends in smart building and smart city domain during this pandemic period? I know things have changed quite abruptly. So what are you experiencing in this domain?
Well, at the moment, of course, people are mostly still working from home, even though companies are operating. Victoria has its own unique circumstances where many companies are shut, unfortunately. But in most cities, people are trying to work out how can we make our buildings safe, COVID safe, that is. So, we've got that question, but then we've got the bigger question of digital transformation in smart cities. So what people are now saying is, well, how can we do everything and save money? It's a bit like when we went to, when we had the GFC, many organizations were afraid of the cloud. They said, oh, look, it's unreliable, it's too hard. We'll keep everything on premises. But then the GFC came and that's it. After the GFC, companies migrated to the cloud like there's no tomorrow, because they found it was economical, it was reliable, and it worked really well. And I think we're going to find the same now, where organizations want to make their buildings COVID safe. So they'll want to know, maximum number of people in a building at any one time, for example. They want visibility of that. They'll also need it for compliance as well and auditing. They'll want to know in certain meeting rooms, okay, we're not going to overfill the room, so how many people are in a meeting room. They'll also want to know, are we mitigating risk of the transfer of viruses in buildings? So what about the airflow management and the number of air changes per hour, for example? Again, that can increase or mitigate the risk depending how many air changes you're doing per hour. There's many aspects of this around mitigation, and then there's sprays that you can apply to cooling coils, to filters, and even that the cleaners add on that lasts for 7 days, and it's actually gets rid of COVID in 1 minute. There's a number of products out there around this. So I think there's now a move to make places much more COVID safe, but not only COVID safe, but it'll be a protection for future type events where if something comes, we'll be much more prepared and we won't have to lock everything down like we have this time, and we'll make it safer. But at the same time, we're going to reduce costs of operation, which is part of the whole deal in moving forward in the digital transformation of building operations and smart cities.
Okay, perfect. So what unique solutions Blue IoT is providing in this to make buildings safer? Like, do you have any adopted digitally transformed solutions in this pandemic?
Yes, so our Encompass Blue platform, which is not only building automation and energy management, and does save certainly a lot of money and carbon footprint, but we have the add-on around COVID. So where we do run people counters in all entrances, so we know how many people are in a building, and then we now can be able to measure proximity of people in areas that people want us to. So people don't, there's not too many people in a close area. And also, again, in the airflow management of our system, which already we do, and make sure we manage the number of air changes per hour. And then even going into thermal imaging of people coming in a building. So, big commercial cameras that can detect many people coming in at once, focus on the face and the head, pick up the temperature straight away. And if somebody's got a temperature, the alarms ring and we can deal with that. And then going into the antimicrobial sprays that are good for 12 months and TGA approved. So these ones that we use, for example, are used to clean up quarantine hotels in Sydney. So they're the sorts of things we're doing in managing and making the buildings more COVID safe, running the lighting systems, the HVAC and all those systems as part of the automation platform from the cloud, but with full visualization, alarms, analytics, and ongoing data interpretation by our domain experts. So it's quite a unique, not only disruptive technology in terms of the tech, but the client engagement model where we're continually there to support them in interpreting data, because people are being bombarded with data all over the place and they don't know what to do with it. So we use our domain experts to interpret, come back to the client, work with their mechanical contractors or electrical contractors, go out on site, fix, repair, get rid of energy waste, prevent outages and so forth. So works very well.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions from the audience? Well, if there are no questions, so I would like to thank Mr. Bob for his great presentation. We'll send you the recording shortly and we'll keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so moving on, our next presenter is Lynn Wood. She's the Chief Idea Spy at Idea Spies, Australia. She will be talking about ideas and innovation for a sustainable future. So over to you, Lynn.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Javier.
Yes, thank you.
Just put on my screen.
Perfect. Yes, we can see that.
Okay, you can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, as we all know, the world is undergoing a new revolution that's often called the Fourth Industrial Revolution or Industry 4.0. But at Idea Spies, we call it the Ideas Revolution because it's encouraging many new ideas to be created and commercialized. Idea Spies itself was created as a global idea sharing platform to share innovation and to inspire action. See up here. As you said, I'm the founder of Idea Spies and the Chief Idea Spy. And in my presentation, I'll show you up to 3 ideas in each category of Idea Spies, particularly related to sustainability. There are over 3,000 ideas and innovations on Idea Spies to choose from, so the choice was not easy. So I'll start with the agriculture category. And here we're going to look at multiple cropping. A way to grow more food on the same piece of land is for farmers to practice this multiple cropping, defined as growing multiple crops sequentially within a year. A CSIRO study found that increasing multiple cropping in suitable areas could lead to up to 30% more global food production without using additional agricultural land. For those who don't know, the CSIRO is Australia's premier scientific research organisation, and you can see many ideas and innovations from them if you search up here CSIRO on IdeaSpire. So the next category I'll talk about is AI, and I'm going to mention 3 ideas from there because it's an important stream at this forum. So while it's a separate category on IdeaSpire now, we recognise that the majority of idea categories will include it in future, so there'll be no need to list it separately. So we'll first go to regulations and how they're affected. A review of the New South Wales regulatory framework using AI in Australia found that there's a significant opportunity to simplify the regulatory compliance framework. If New South Wales saved 5% in compliance costs, it could realise a net benefit of up to $4 billion in savings and maybe pass that on to rate holders. Hopefully they would do that. A very different AI idea now. We're going to look at post-war construction. An exhibition combining photography and 3D projection mapping with AI in China has showcased some of the cities that have been decimated by war. Now, this method could help in urban planning by incorporating both the past and the future into designs that are more responsive to people's needs. And next, we're going to look at innovation in England that is compulsory. But for some. Now, I actually saw this on a BBC program on TV where, as IdeaSpires, we're all looking out for ideas. You can see on our About page up here who's involved in IdeaSpires, but we have editors of various idea categories all looking out for ideas. And this is an interesting one. They're all really good. We all love them all, but it's interesting because I saw it on TV. In England, it's compulsory to wear a mask on public transport and in stores due to COVID-19. This AI device has been invented to detect whether someone is wearing a mask or not, and if not, restrict entrance to a store. When in Australia, when people were not allowed to go into stores without masks, when we had that sort of arrangement, there were arguments and people were not very happy with the sales staff. This circumvents that. It's quite clever. Now on to the artistic. And we're going to go to China again, and we're going to look at the Qin Museum. Now, this museum's in the ancient city of Xi'an in China, and it covers the mausoleum of the first emperor of China, with a total area of 2 million square meters. It houses the Terracotta Army, a collection of terracotta sculptures depicting the armies of the first Emperor of China. The museum has initiated a digital transformation plan in response to the changing demands of customers in the digital age. The initiative focuses on leveraging emerging technologies, including augmented reality, Internet of Things, and facial recognition to satisfy modern expectations in an increasingly digital world. They provide more opportunities for audiences today to get to know the underground army that is guarding the first Emperor of China. And I've been there. It's remarkable. It's wonderful. It has been discovered. But you see, each of these soldiers is individually crafted to represent an individual soldier of that time. So it's really, really quite remarkable. And if you haven't been there, or if you can't get there, it's great now that you can see it through this digital exhibition that's been created. And climate, I was asked to create a climate category on IdeaSpice only recently, and it's very topical, as we all know, particularly in relation to carbon. Now, a tool has been created, and you can see here, Sydney. This was Sydney during our bushfires. That's how bad the atmosphere was during our bushfires against what it normally is, which is back there now. And a tool has been developed to provide environmental managers and researchers with new information about pollution, which will produce a better understanding of the role it plays in climate change. It was designed and built at ANSTO in Sydney to measure the concentration of carbon in the atmosphere and determine its source, and is now commercially available at ANSTO, or from ANSTO, which is Australia's Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation. You can actually go on a tour there. I have been a few years ago. I went on a tour there. You can see their carbon dating and how they do it in the ice areas. It's quite fascinating what they have out there, and well recommended. If you come to Australia, you can actually visit it. When you can come to Australia. Now to dining. And we're going to look at humanoids. Now, a restaurant in the Netherlands has humanoid robots that welcome patrons, take their temperature, and serve drinks. While robots have been around for some time now without much success in hospitality, the higher demand for contactless experiences could become an opportunity for the advanced manufacturing industry. Energy, a very hot topic now. And we're going to look at green steel. I saw that earlier in this forum, we're talking about green hydrogen. This is a step forward. Swedish steelmaker SSAB has announced a joint venture to develop green steel, the world's very first fossil-free iron-based steelmaking process. The byproduct created when using fossil-free electricity and hydrogen instead of coke and coal in steelmaking is water instead of carbon dioxide. That's very positive. It's water instead of carbon dioxide. So Australia could soon be exporting sunshine in the form of renewable energy produced hydrogen. And the speaker was talking about that a facility that's being built in Western Australia earlier in the forum. The Shell is also planning a wind-powered hydrogen plant in Rotterdam. FinTech now, that's also a new category on IdeaSpice because so much is happening in that space. And we're going to look at investing in women. Now, nearly 1 billion women globally don't have access to formal financial services, even a basic bank account. Traditionally, lenders ask for house or land as collateral for business or personal loans. In some cultures, this collateral is owned by the male, immediately excluding women and future entrepreneurs. Women's World Banking in the US is working with organizations on financial instruments that reduce the vulnerability and exclusion of women. You can see here, and I should mention that we actually talk about each idea in 100 words or less with a link for more information. So we try and ensure that all the ideas and innovations that we post on IdeaSpice are very easily understood, quite unlike having a publication with a long article. The long article might be in the link. Now, governance. We'll have a look at it, a citizens' assembly. I created this category late last year, and the editor has been a chair on major organizations, and he's now very, very keen on following ideas that will enhance democracy. And this has become very, very topical around the world. And he's very keen on this particular idea. Now, a recent Ipsos poll conducted in 14 countries found that 2/3 of citizens consider the climate crisis to be as serious as COVID and want their governments to prioritize climate action in the economic recovery. The lockdown has caused many to reflect on what's important. And for the first time in living memory, the whole world slowed down, cars, planes, and people. Much of the rushing now around seems unnecessary. And we've had a glimpse of a better world, quieter, cleaner, and greener. So this year in France, President Macron announced a $24 billion program in response to a citizens' assembly on climate change. 150 people deliberated. They were all very specially chosen through a random process. They deliberated for 6 months on environmental issues to say what needs to be done, and the French government is taking action. So that's a model that the rest of the world could use in terms of governance. Healthcare, also very, very important. So I'm going to look at 2 ideas there. The first one about microbots. Now, scientists at Cornell University in the US have tackled one of the most pressing problems in microrobotics, getting robots to move in a controllable manner. The team was able to simultaneously jigger the legs of a battalion of microbots in a coordinated march. You've got to use your imagination here, but this opens the door for the last 50 years of microelectronics research to be incorporated into robots so small that they can't be seen by the human eye. And potentially they'll be able to move through your body. It's remarkable. This is another one concerning the lungs. This is a video. We have videos on IdeaSpice as well as images to represent ideas. So hospitals around the world can now get VR tech for free if they're seeking to navigate into a COVID-19 patient's lungs. A 360-degree virtual reality fly-through can show the extent of damage to the lungs from COVID-19 in yellow. It was developed by the George Washington University Hospital in the US. I won't play it now, but you can play it later if you search lungs on IdeaSpice. It's very interesting when you go into that person's lungs and you can see the yellow and how it starts to coagulate as you go through the different chambers of the lungs. Very scary to show you what can happen, but it's good to know, and it's great that they're providing this VR tech for free. Inclusion is an important topic now. Socially, people talk about it quite frequently. We're going to look at headsets. Now, an English school is using VR headsets to help autistic children who are non-verbal navigate situations like visiting a shopping mall or getting on a plane. Now, this can reduce their anxiety in handling what for many are everyday events. But the headsets can also be used, of course, to help children enjoy experiences like deep sea diving or skiing. Now to industrial, sea bins. Love the subheading here. It says, rubbish bins on land, sea bins in the water. It's by our industrial editor. Now, you can see that the sea bin initiative will see a service fleet of CBIN units in Sydney Harbour. Now, starting with 20 units in multiple Sydney Harbour locations, it's estimated that in 12 months, 28 tonnes of microplastics, marine litter and plastic fibres will be removed by filtering 4.3 billion litres of water from the harbour. Very positive, and this is an Australian invention. Up to not-for-profit. And I was a few years ago a director or non-executive director on Save the Children, and I'm really, really pleased to see them come up with this idea that could potentially be very successful worldwide. So Save the Children Australia have succeeded in achieving a major milestone in closing a $6 million round for a new impact investment vehicle that will support education in terms of educate, health and fintech companies supporting disadvantaged children and their families. This is a first for Save the Children globally, and one that could be replicated in other countries. So you might find it in your country in the future, hopefully. Now, there are many startups, obviously, on IdeaSpice. It's a big category. Look at an interesting one involving seaweed, because that's very much connected with sustainability. Now, FutureFeed, with this innovation, is a startup that's developed a supplement based on seaweed in feed for dairy and beef cattle. It's made headlines across the industry as research trials in Australia and the US have found it can reduce methane emissions in beef and dairy by more than 80%. So finally, we're getting on to well-being, and you can't look at well-being without looking at social media. Now, the social media giants are arguably operating without competition and regulation. Now, they have a lot of positive benefits in connecting people, but they're also causing anxiety in users as well as divisions in society. And a Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma has started a conversation about these concerns. That's well worth watching on Netflix. A key tip that they offer is to fact check before sharing to help stop fake news spreading. It's a very simple tip that we can all do. So I obviously encourage it. So I'd like to end on a happy note. Especially since research shows that mental health has deteriorated as a result of stress and worry as the COVID-19 crisis has moved on. It's coming and going, causing a lot of anxiety. So interestingly, topics like happiness and well-being are now becoming popular, and more than 2 million people have enrolled in a free online course offered by Yale University called The Science of Wellbeing. I know a former speaker was talking about online education. This is a great example of it. It teaches that your well-being can be boosted by socializing, helping others, and being in the present, as we are now. So thanks very much for your interest. You can search these ideas and more on IdeaSpice by category here or by word up here. You're welcome to join our IdeaSpice community so you can contribute ideas and receive the most popular in IdeaSpice Weekly. You just go up there and you can join. It's very, very easy. So thanks very much, Dr. Hafiz. I'd be very happy to take questions.
Thank you, Lynn. It was a great presentation. And now, if someone has any questions, please feel free to unmute your microphones, or you can type in the chat window as well. So I have a quick question. Like, there are so many ideas Are you making any like top picks of the week or topics of the month, picks, you know, the best picks of the months and so on? Are you doing such newsletters, a thing where people can just see, you know, the highlights, or how it works?
Yeah, we do. That's where we have IdeaSpice Weekly that goes out, and I think you're registered, so you should be getting IdeaSpice Weekly, and that has the top ideas for the week. I don't put too many in because you don't want to overload people, but probably put about 7 to 12 ideas in. And we can tell which ones are the most popular because the site tracks how many people click on the ideas. You know, because they're shared to social media, and we can tell how many times they're clicked on. And the editors can also tell for the ideas, anybody who posts an idea, including the editors, can tell how many clicks their idea has had in their profile. But we could do more. I'd love to talk to people about doing more. We did a competition earlier in the history of IdeaSpice, and we offered prizes in conjunction with actually a restaurant in Sydney, and it worked very well. So we've been trialing different things. So love to do anything that would increase the spread of these ideas because they're so good. It's hard to keep up with them. But we're trying. Yeah. There's so many.
Perfect. Madam Sabine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So go ahead with your question. I can see in the chat. Can you coordinate?
Yeah, okay, fine. I thought I'd write this. Okay, fine. First of all, congratulations to your great idea. I like this. And I have something similar done, but more in education and awareness. But also this was inspiring lots of people to follow new ideas or to set up maybe NGOs to do something good for the planet, you know, in sustainability, humanity, and in peace. So right now, what I wanted to ask you, because I have not heard your whole speech right now, and therefore is a little bit missing. Do you operate actually only over your website, or do you use also social media to distribute the ideas?
Oh, definitely we use social media. So the good thing, I could show you the, again, the share screen, if you don't mind. I'll go back to them. So you can see that all the ideas can be shared straight to your social media. So if you go on to IdeaSpice, each of these are hooked up to your social media, your personal social media.
Okay, but this is right now sharing of the articles from your website. What I was asking, if you use by yourself, also under the name IdeaSpice, on social media, do you have social media platforms like Facebook, Pinterest?
Oh yes, sorry, yes we do. So
yeah. Okay,
thank you. So here, follow us on, that's Facebook. So you can go to IdeaSpice Facebook. I don't know if it comes through here. At the Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We've got Instagram. We've actually got a woman over in France who is doing our Instagram for us. She just contacted me and offered to do it. She's fabulous. She's mentioned on our About page. And yeah, so we have IdeaSpice on all the social media. We even have it on WeChat. But I haven't been posting anything on WeChat.
Yeah, WeChat is Chinese. Okay, and right now, is this only just in Australia, or you operate also in other countries?
No, it's right across the world. So we have people involved from across the world. And because it's very important to keep track of ideas around the world. Our editors are only in Australia at this stage, but in the future, we'd like to have editors for different countries involved as well. It's really getting to know people and seeing how they operate, because it's very important. If you go on to IdeaSpice, there will be a drop down after a few seconds for encouraging people to join. It talks about positive people with positive ideas. So it's all geared to people like us to actually join and be part of it. Very important.
Very nice.
That's the community.
Do you do this as a full-time job, or how do you finance this work?
Yeah, it's full-time because it started off, basically I was on, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I've been on a lot of boards. I've had a very, very diverse career. And the last board I was on was an international board, which led me to travel around the world. And so therefore I was seeing lots of ideas, and that's how we got the idea for Idea Spies, which you can see on the About page. Yeah, and so now we have an advisory board, and that's been set up because people want Idea Spies to be sustainable. The sustainability is a big issue. So they're saying we want it to be sustainable, and so you have to make it more commercially viable. At the moment, it's free, but we're going to be testing ideas soon to make it commercially viable.
Yeah, because unfortunately, I see always that good ideas get stuck by not getting fundings.
See, we haven't been focusing on that because it's been a huge undertaking to develop the platform and get the people involved, as you'd appreciate, because it's like setting up something like a Facebook, but only for positive ideas, and a lot of them, as I said, were related to sustainability. So that's a lot involved in that. And very fortunately, one of the points about there being so many ideas around is that the barriers to entry have come down. So the costs are much less than they would have been, a few years ago, many years ago. But there's been a lot of focus on developing, because originally the platform was on WordPress, and then it's come over to a bespoke platform. It's a lot more professional in look. So we've been just developing it all the time, and more people have basically come on board and want to be involved. So which is very, very positive for us, and they're lovely people.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, because I have also platforms which I have since nearly 10 years. It's quite, it's something which you do out of passion, but in the final end, there is no income streams through it, So it's really just a humanitarian actor, but in the final end, you have to also to look to pay your fixed cost. And that's why I'm asking you if you have there some supporters or sponsors who support this. I mean, voluntary people you get always, but also volunteer people you have to oversee and to guide and to control, etc. So I know this out of experience because I have 200,000 members right now with me on my platforms and from all over. And there's a lot of offers in sense of voluntary work, but this is even more time consuming sometimes than doing it by yourself, And it's my experience.
No, that's great. And I have to look at your platform. I'd love to have a look at it. And we're always looking at opportunities for cooperation, collaboration, because it's a very challenging, but also a very positive and exciting journey.
Okay, congratulations. I'll write you my website here in the chat, and maybe you can catch up with me later on, because I wanted to extend this too much. But I like your idea, and I like also the motivation, and it's nice.
Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, I give back to Dr. Hafiz.
Thank you, Madam Sabine. You had a great discussion. So any other questions from the audience, please? There was one comment from Madeline, like fantastic overview of the Idea Spies platform. So she was quite happy. And just seeing if there is anything else. So did you get the website from Madam Sabine? I think Madam Sabine just
the name
message to me, and probably to Lynn. You can message her as well.
And I might just connect with you if on LinkedIn. I'll connect with you.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Any other questions? No, I think we are good to go then. Thanks a lot, Lynn, for your time and for the great ideas you have presented today for sustainable post-COVID-19 future world. And I would be happy to keep in touch for future collaboration, and we'll discuss further ideas with you. So thank you very much for today.
And thank you very much, Dr. Hafiz. It's a pleasure.
Yes, pleasure is all mine as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so moving on, we have got some break time. So we are going on break. We'll be resuming back around after 45 minutes, and then we'll start with the next speakers.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're done at 3 o'clock, no? 45 minutes.
Yes.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.